Hello, everyone, and welcome to K-All, the podcast where we dive deep into the electrifying world of K-pop. I'm your host, Angel, and today I'm introducing a fun new segment called Angel's Angle. In this series, I will be sharing some of my favorite K-pop songs and doing a deep dive into their lyrics, so that way we can really highlight the artistry behind their music. Since BTS are my old group, I'll be focusing on their tracks, both as a group and as solo artist. Predominantly today we're going to focus on the rap lines music. Whether you're a longtime ARMY or a new listener, I hope that my analysis will give you a fresh new perspective and show that there's so much more if you just look BTS. Beneath the surface, of course. I've been teasing this episode on our Instagram, K-All Podcast. Go ahead and give that a follow while you're at it, by posting a couple of short reels going into each of these songs, but I want to go a little bit deeper, and that's what today is about. So if you're excited for this episode, you know what to do. Like and subscribe to K-All on YouTube, and follow us on Spotify if you're listening there. Without further ado, folks, let's get it. The first song that I want to really get into today is August D's Polar Night, which is a B-side that was released on his first official studio album, D-Day, in 2023. Now, August D, aka SUGA, aka Yoongi of BTS, has actually released two full mixtapes prior to this, August D and D2, making this album a third sonic body of work in a trilogy. Now, Polar Night is a deeply introspective and socially critical piece. I want to break it down line by line today, at least as much as I possibly can, to really unpack the meaning and emotional weight that this song carries. It really reads like a poetic manifesto when you look into it, because SUGA, he addresses truth, lies disguised as truth, justice, hypocrisy, and collective responsibility as a whole. To get right into it, I want to start with the intro of this song. The opening lyrics say, "Between countless truths and countless lies, are we looking at the world the proper way?" So this really sets the tone for the entire philosophical discussion that August D is about to have with us. It's really a question of perception. With so many competing narratives that are thrown our way in the media, how do we know what is real? And are we even trying to see the truth, or are we comfortable with our filtered versions? Do we ever look beneath the surface? BTS, there I go again. Then he talks about how the difference between truths and lies, the gap between instigation and fundamental nature. So here we see that truth and lies are not always black and white. What's presented as truth might actually be propaganda, and real motives are often buried beneath inciting rhetoric. This is a very touchy topic to be talking about, but it could definitely relate to so many different societal structures depending on how the listener views it. But it really forces you to think about, is what I'm seeing each day, even on my own feed that I thought that I curated myself, is this truth, or is this something somebody wants me to believe? The next lyrics say, what is it that I'm gaining? So now Yoongi is kind of introducing this idea of self-awareness. He's taking a pause within the lyrics itself to question his own personal motives as well as the listeners. Followed by that, he says, "For I can't live like waste in this wasteful world." He actually uses another word for that, but I think you can figure it out. "I face reality with my eyes wide open." Here the speaker refuses to be passive or to accept a corrupt system. Eyes wide open suggests pain, but conscious clarity. Your Eyes Tell by BTS, which happens to be another song of theirs. Then he says how the opposite of justice is another justice, which is a very interesting concept. It's very profound when you really think about it, because it questions the singularity of the word justice itself. Each side of a conflicting argument believes that they hold the true moral high ground, but how do we actually assess who is in the right? He says, you already know there's no such thing as good intention, which is a very cynical comment to make, But maybe if we try to act out of the kindness of our hearts, perhaps it's tinged with self-interest. Perhaps there is an underlying motive, a premeditated reason why we're deciding to do something good. Unconcerned about the fact, he says, and killing anyone not on the same side is what today's justice is. Now, this is such a powerful line because it's showing how if anyone disagrees with you, if you get into arguments with people and you're on the opposing sides, they're automatically an enemy. It's not even like there's room for dialogue anymore. Justice itself becomes a weapon that's wielded by the loudest and the most aggressive, often detached from facts. And this whole notion really reminds me of Wildflower by RM of BTS. He has this one lyric that is one of my favorites that says, "Society is all for the loudest voice. And here I am, still speaking silence." It's such a powerful line because it shows how there's so many different perspectives, so many different ideas, and it's often the loudest ones that are stemming from baseless facts. There's absolutely nothing ethical behind their decisions to make comments, and yet they're so brave and brazen in speaking what they believe their truth is. While people who have opposing thoughts and beliefs that might stem from some real understanding of what we're going through, what certain people in different systems of life are enduring, but they don't have the ability to amplify their voice because the herd mentality of one consciousness is overpowering that truth. It's very deep, very introspective. It gets me thinking about a lot of things. What does it make you think about? Comment below your thoughts because I'm very curious. But this just goes to show that BTS's music and lyricism goes so beyond even the spectrums of what you would expect K-pop lyricism to portray and develop, which is why I love the fact that they are so heavily involved in the songwriting process for each of their songs. And I mean, there's no way they couldn't be with the type of words they're saying. That takes a type of conviction to deliver these thoughts and create a product like this song. Back to Polar Night, I went on a little bit of a tangent. He says left and right, black and white, at the end of this scripted play, the audience rips each other apart and draws blood, which is very interesting because now he's comparing the world and just society in general to a show, to a form of entertainment, to theater. And by presenting life as a theatrical spectacle, he's showing that instead of the powerful being questioned, the main characters, so to speak, the audience, you and I, turn on each other. Instead of questioning those who are in higher power or have more of a platform and ability to convey public thought, we just decide to fight until there is no one left to be watchdogs for what's going on in society. So he also says, one of my favorite lines, "A war without gunshots, the ills of materialism." Now here a silent war is waged, ideologically, economically, emotionally, with consumerism at its core. He's showing how we don't need to be fighting each other with guns. We don't need to even have physical altercations. The ills of materialism is what causes the deepest, darkest wounds and divides. He says the extreme choice of making anyone and everyone an enemy, if not on the same side, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, about if you have differing ideologies from other people, they're automatically the enemy. You decide that polarization is going to replace any dialogue or nuance. Now, there's another section in the song that kind of discusses modern hypocrisy. And this part is really the refrain. It's the chorus that he continuously repeats to drive his thoughts home. It's very, very powerful. And one of the main lyrics is, "It is all dirty. Can I too say that I am clean? Can you say you are clean?" Which allows him to self-reflect on his own actions and how they contribute to this problem. It's such a haunting refrain, and it asks us not only for societal critique, but personal accountability. Nobody is above this mess, which reminds me of J-Hope's lyrics in Equal Sign. No one is above us, no one is below us. Let's roll. with love and trust, respect, step by step. I digress. No one is above this mess because we all contribute to it, whether it's through action, through silence as bystanders, or through indifference, just simply not caring about the atrocities that you're witnessing day to day. So he says how while some shout out about all kinds of justice with their tongue covered in blood, others silently laugh at them, which is such a powerful line to me because he's talking about that kind of selective hypocrisy, that choice for public people like celebrities or other people in the public eye to pretend that they care about a certain cause if it's going to benefit their platform. That's why their tongues are covered in blood, because they are actually contributing to the problem and simultaneously trying to deflect their own mistakes by appearing at charity events or endorsing things that appear to be good causes. Now, justice here is weaponized, and it's often by those with the blood on their hands, as I aforementioned. Meanwhile, bystanders look on with cynicism, either too scared or too jaded to act, and then they thereby contribute to the problem by being silent. But this is also important because he says in the era of everyone having something to say, keeping your opinions to yourself makes you a bystander. Here, silence is punished. But speaking invites backlash too. It's a no-win scenario in the age of noise. Following this lyric, which that wasn't all a lyric, I was also analyzing some of it, he says in the lyric, murders committed by cowards hiding behind anonymity. That's a word I cannot say, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But this is an obvious reference to cyberbullying, cancel culture, and digital lynch mobs. And it also reminds me of UGG by BTS, which we will get into later, talking about those little keyboard warriors. It's always fools putting their lives on the line for the online, as RM says in his song Still Life. Now, the next lyric goes, the culprits shut their mouths, that cheap justice isn't for the bleeding ones. So the loudest justice warriors aren't necessarily protecting the victims, they're often self-serving. He finally says, face this uncomfortable good intention, which is so powerful. He's telling us how even the good intentions that we make and like our reason behind them must be examined. Are they truly selfless, or are they more about virtue signaling? A closing thought is in the lyrics, what is the point of fighting among ourselves? I tell you, our spearheads should be directed upwards. I absolutely love this line because it's so powerful. Instead of tearing each other apart, we should direct our energy towards dismantling the corrupt systems that pit us against each other. And when he says put that spearhead up into the sky, it's showing insole to the sky. That's not what it's showing, I'm sorry. It's showing how instead of us fighting on the ground level with our peers, we need to look at the people in power. We need to look at specific systems that are suppressing us, that are holding us down, and put our powers together to make a change. Now, this piece is definitely a social mirror reflecting the polarized world that we live in, but it's also a moral wake-up call to examine how we weaponize our own beliefs. It really forces us to think deeper, look into your soul, and wonder, are the choices that I make every single day, are they fueled by good intent or ill intent? As one of BTS's lyrics say, good intent, ill intent, they're all the same. And do we do things out of the kindness of our heart? Or is there some ulterior motive because we're going to be benefited in some certain way? Now, something I love about this song too is that Yoongi is also confessing that he himself is part of this critique, which is why in the D-Day tour, he actually deconstructs the stage until he's finally at the ground level with all of the fans, as he sings these words to let them know that I recognize I'm on a pedestal because of my job, because of my career and what I do, but that doesn't mean I'm not any less of a problem than all of us are. We're all cogs in this system that is the world, and we need to figure out how to preserve respect, dignity of life, and peace for all individuals, not just when it suits us best. Something I also didn't mention was his lyrics about yellow journalism. and the implications that sensationalized headlines can have on society as a whole. It's very often times that we don't look deeper into the news stories that we see. You don't look beyond a headline. You may read what the first couple of words say, and then you'll spread that to your inner circle without even knowing the full truth or whether it came from factual sources. And the reason why Augusty mentions this in the song is because he started writing Polar Night in 2022 during BTS's Las Vegas Permission to Dance tour. Around this time, there were rumors that had been swirling about the group disbanding after a certain V-Live dinner that they had for Festa. Now, these were completely baseless claims, but because Jin was to enlist into the military and because of the alleged tone of BTS's conversation at this dinner, American news outlets as well as global news outlets kind of ran with this idea of BTS disbanding, not thinking about how harmful that could be for the group themselves as they were approaching their enlistment dates and trying to make sense of how they were going to come back together as a group. So because of that outrage and that lack of control, SUGA decided to write Polar Night as he was approaching his 30s and wanted to reflect the thought process that he was going through during that time, as well as how his thoughts about the world have evolved from his 20s to 30s. And I think he did a great job encapsulating that here. Min Genius, Min Yoongi, call him what you want, call it what you want to by Taylor Swift. I feel like this song is so akin to Strange by Augusty feat. RM, which is why we're going to get into that song next. So Strange, or the Korean title Is It Strange, was released on Augusty's second mixtape D2 in 2020. Strange by Augusty feat. RM is more than just a song. It's a philosophical discussion about what's becoming normal in the modern world. First opening with an ominous piano before falling into a trap beat, the rappers make observation on harsh societal systems and rising polarity, where they poignantly state that polarization is the ugliest flower the world has ever bloomed. One of my favorite lyrics of all time. And this particular lyric prompts listeners to consider how division leads to suffering, and yet the world continues to foster its growth as different factors like ideological views and the economy emerge to drive people apart. Both Augusty and RM use Korean wordplay to emphasize this statement, with the word yanggukwa, or polarization in English, actually breaking down to the Korean homonyms anger and flower. So specifically, hwa, HWA, means anger, and it also means flower. Now, my favorite Yoongi lyric in this song is, with dreams as collateral, capital injects the morphine called hope. This basically showcases how champions of capitalism often argue that wealthy corporations can provide jobs to the impoverished, and they dangle the dream of wealth in front of these poor communities to entice them to work even harder, when in reality, wealth breeds wealth and tests greed, as Augusty also says in the lyric that follows. Now, Namjoon was the perfect addition to this song because he offers another approach to this societal view. He says, you think you got taste? Oh baby, how do you know? I mean, for God's sake, everything's under control. Which rings very true in today's social media climate where our feeds are controlled by algorithms and outside capitalistic factors. I just love how he mocks the sentiment that our feeds explain us. He says, my feed explains me. When what our feeds really are explaining is a feedback loop where consumers are compelled to purchase items they don't even need, unaware of what they truly want out of life themselves. And not only that, the feedback loop relates to an algorithm that is curating all these different posts for us to see based on one thing that we like, and then that becomes a collective consciousness of the same content constantly being showed to you. And little do you realize, you don't have total control over that algorithm. They're pushing specific items, specific thoughts, specific notions that they think will satisfy your need to keep scrolling. And then you lose agency. You lose control of your ability to get off your phone and stop looking at the internet. And then you might lose sight of who you are, which is why he says, "Oh baby, what's your name?" In this song, August D and RM implore their listeners to gain self-awareness and recognize that capitalism is breeding a society where people just kind of lust after trends and abandon their dreams until everything is left in dust, aka a mind clouded by hatred, incessant self-indulgence, and ignorance. The reason why I mention lust and dust is because the opening lyrics say, "Everything in dust, do you see? Well, well, well. Everything in lust, now do you see? Well, well, well." Because Jungi is trying to repeat this concept for listeners to really drill it into their brains. Like, do you recognize what's going on? Do you understand why you gravitate towards certain items or towards certain people you follow on social media? Is it truly all entirely your own thought? Or is it because you're pursuing something that the world is telling you you should pursue? There's so many existential inquiries within these lyrics, and I feel like they can be interpreted multiple different ways. So if you guys have your own thoughts, please comment down below in the YouTube or the Spotify comment section and let me know what you think, because I would love to hear. What Do You Think by August D also happens to be a song and one of my favorites from him, but I digress. There are these lyrics that are repeated throughout the song that says, "Someone please tell me if life is pain. If there's a God, please tell me if life is happiness," which is kind of questioning the nature of life itself. Is it pain? Is it happiness? Can you not feel happiness without enduring great pain? And the repeated "well, well, well" evokes a sort of numbness, like a shrug in the face of overwhelming complexity. He kind of just has to come to terms with the fact that true beauty is a true sadness. Now you can feel my madness, as RM says in Yoon feat. Erykah Badu on his album Indigo, which I highly recommend you guys checking out because it is absolutely incredible. But anyways, I just wanted to dissect this a little bit more because I think it's so interesting how they're talking about how identity is reduced to a curated Instagram feed. Specifically RM, he's saying how it's a synthetic, performative version of reality, and that can unfortunately tie into how people define themselves according to likes, according to wealth, according to aesthetics. It's reinforcing all this artificial value, which is why in All Day by RM feat. Tableau, he says, "F the algorithm, I need to find my own biorhythm," which is really showing this is a constant thing he thinks about, trying to separate from the digital world and the natural world. When we speak about AI, when we speak about algorithms, this can go into an entire different social morality because of the implications it has for climate change. Think about the energy reserves that are being heavily overused to pump into AI systems for their computer warehouses and software. We're using it at such a rapid rate that not only are we deteriorating our inner souls and our inner sense of self, we're deteriorating the outer world and the climate. But that is for another day when I discuss The Planet by BTS, which happens to be a climate change song, which is very interesting because, yet again, you would think in K-pop, oh, they're discussing socioeconomic, political systems, and they're discussing the climate too. Now that we've really kind of discussed all that there is to know about Strange and how August D offers such a sharp critique on society, whereas RM is more contemplative and critical of what's being done, but he's also trying to analyze in a resigned manner to really make sense of it and try to come to terms with it. August D has that more burn it rage within him. He's like, let's get rid of this. Let's break it all down. Die to yourself in order to find who you really are. RM is like, well, there's some nuances to this, so let's analyze it through that scope and see what we can understand and pick apart. And I think that just really emphasizes their personalities too, which I think is incredible, that music can capture someone's entire essence, entire being. B by BTS. I just can't help it, guys. I just can't help it with the references. Now, we're 30 minutes in and we've only discussed 2 songs, so the third one that I did want to briefly mention is my favorite BTS song, UGG, by the rap line of BTS, who would have ever guessed it, SUGA, J-Hope, and RM. Now, this is a song that was released in 2020 on BTS's album Map of the Soul 7, which is an album that is a bit of a hard topic for a lot of individuals because the pandemic resulted in their world tour relating to that album getting canceled, and devastated fans were left in their houses around the world just wondering when they'd be able to utilize those tickets, only for them to be completely refunded. Hopefully, those warriors will be able to get tickets for the 2026 BTS comeback tour. I know that I will be fighting Ticketmaster. It'll be the fight of my life, but I'm ready to survive the Great War. So, now that we're going to talk about UGG, I want to mention how this song really criticizes a society where people hide behind anonymity, there goes my favorite word again that I can't say, while using their anger against others. UGG represents their frustration with malice-filled anger, which is very different from anger that can actually spark change in the world. So Yoongi's first verse introduces us to this rage-filled malice, born out of unnecessary hatred. He addresses the embers that burst into a flame and quickly overwhelm a person before even reaching the fuel, displaying that when a person decides to hate, that toxic attitude escalates exponentially until it grows into an uncontrollable wildfire. And I think that's why he has fire flaring up during his D-Day concert when he performs this song. He's really trying to show how quickly anger can escalate into this out of control conundrum. Hence, him saying, no doubt they'll be swept away. And that line also relates to their performance during the pandemic when the 3 of them were in a boxing ring. So I love when he says today's player enters the ring with an offense, because as he says this, he uses Korean onomatopoeia to provide visual imagery of the discordant situation that haters create, also echoing a Korean drum with dung dung dung, to show the hater is picking an easy target that anyone can hit on, which is ultimately pathetic. Here, the lyrics detail how the hater keeps poking and jabbing to get a reaction, and if he doesn't receive one, then his actions will turn more malicious and result to stabbing. This scenario is followed by the lyrics, the truths may become lies, and the lies become truth. In this place, everyone becomes someone with moral reasoning and judgment. How funny. Here, Yoongi criticizes the hypocrisy of individuals that can also so brazenly lie and act as if they're not inflicting harm on others to maintain a false pristine image. Now, Namjoon's second verse always gets me going because it's just incredible. And he says, anger, of course it's needed. When it flares up, there's a reason. Followed by, it's human nature to utilize anger to change history. So in this sense, Namjoon recognizes the importance of anger to spark change around the world. However, he follows this up by saying the anger that they are discussing within UGG is not true rage, but human waste. These haters don't know what real anguish is, and instead they kill the real rage that can spark real social change to instead nurture their fake rage and harm other people instead. Such fake rage may resemble uncalled for cancel culture and senseless bullying. He says human and indifferent you're a team to show that people have grown desensitized to criticizing others and putting people down. Thus, BTS are enraged at the rage full of malice that extinguished actual anger that was born from true injustice. And I can't discuss UGG without going into J-Hope's lyrics because Hobie has so many beautiful things to say. His lyrics always strike a chord within me, but something about the UGG verse is just entirely different. He says how there are tens of thousands of reasons to be angry. Good intention, ill intention, they're all the same. Now you know why I mentioned that earlier. Displaying that no matter what the reason, anger can spark serious consequences. And though it is your right to be angry, causing harm to others is simply unacceptable. He speaks about how one person's and their words can make someone else hopeless, how someone's split second of hating becomes someone's permanent painful memory, and worst of all, someone's anger can cost somebody's life. Therefore, in this song, BTS clear their throats, almost like professors, with their ahem, 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 and speak on behalf of all the voiceless who don't have the resources to stand up for themselves against these cruel comments. That concludes today's analysis. Thank you so much for listening to K-All and for hearing me out when I say BTS have the most incredible socio-political and economic songs within their discography. There's simply so much to analyze, and I have barely grazed the surface. That doesn't mean that they are the only K-pop artists or groups that bear incredible lyrics within their discography. If there's any songs that you want me to analyze in a future episode, please comment down below so I know and then I can give it a go. I definitely would love to discuss IU in a future episode, as well as Tomorrow by Together and their song Tinnitus, because that has a crazy double meaning. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope to hear from you guys in the comments, and please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. That's all for K-All.